Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Euston in north central London to Westminster in central London. This ride takes just 15 minutes and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport, the same trip would probably take around 20 minutes and would require a change of tube line, so cycling makes a lot of sense to do this journey. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel on Patreon. If you'd like to contribute as well, then you can find a link in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting across the road from Euston Station and we're going to turn around and head straight up Gower Street, which very quickly turns into Gordon Square. There's very little traffic on this street, and there's also an interesting new thing here. If you look out on the left past these green planters, you'll see that the road has been closed there and turned into a bit of public space by Camden Council. They've removed traffic from there and they've added some seating, planting and bike parking, which I think is a really nice way to use public space. You could also check out Gordon Square Gardens, which is open to the public and just to the left of that fence there. It's a nice place to sit if you've got some time to kill while you're waiting for a train at Euston. Now we turn right onto Byng Place. Note that it's no right turn except for cycles, and we quickly get onto these really nice protected cycle lanes. These lanes were recently redone by Camden and they now have a really sturdy concrete barrier running in both directions. They're also nice and wide and there's a really smooth surface. I think that they're great and I'd love to see that treatment used on more cycle lanes around the city. They're definitely better than plastic ones. Gower Street, which we're on now, also has protected lanes of a slightly different design. You can see that these lanes have a little step down to the main carriageway, so you're at a different level from both the pavement and the main road. They're a little bit intermittent and there are sections where they turn into painted lanes like here, and I'd love to see them reinforced with maybe those concrete barriers we saw on the other lane, just to give a little bit more protection, especially through junctions. Generally though, they're pretty good. Although watch out for this loading bay we just cycled through. That's annoyingly in the cycle track and it does mean that the track can sometimes be blocked by loading vehicles. There are two spots on Gower Street here that you need to be really cautious of. The first is this junction that we just cycled through, and the second is the second junction that we're about to cycle through. These junctions are unnecessarily chaotic and they sometimes just feel a little bit unpredictable at times. One particular danger is if you're going straight ahead on a green light and a vehicle tries to turn left across you without looking or stopping for you. Just be aware of that and just keep an eye on any vehicles that look like they're about to turn. We want to go down Endell Street and this is how you get there. You just use that cut in the curb in the middle and it'll let you through. Camden's section of Endell Street is always nice and quiet like this, and there are nice eateries and restaurants set out on the quiet street in this lovely shady spot with loads of trees, as well as a pub with lots of people standing outside drinking. However, you can immediately tell when you cross the border into Westminster, as it does get a little bit less hospitable. There isn't a lot of traffic down here, but the few people who do choose to drive cars down here do tend to get in the way quite a lot, as there are just so many people walking around and it's really not laid out for cars. One particular issue is that the zebra crossings mean that cars quite often have to stop, so you'll often get quite long queues of vehicles just like that. Just take it slowly and make sure you give way to any pedestrians trying to use the crossing, just like we've done here. I'd say that this video has probably a fairly average amount of traffic for Endell, Bow and Wellington Street. Sometimes it can be a little bit busier, sometimes it can be a little bit quieter. It depends on the time of day and also the time of year. I found in the summer and the Christmas period it tends to be pretty thronging with tourists around here. Now we waited for the lights to let us onto the Strand and then you wait for the lights again and we turned down Savoy Street. Savoy Street is one of my favourite little cut-throughs to get from that Endell Street link and onto the embankment cycleway, which we're just about to go on now. If you keep an eye to the right hand side, you'll see these traffic lights here. If you're doing this route in the opposite direction, those are the traffic lights that you use to go up Savoy Street. It gives you your own dedicated phase to cross the road, so you don't have to chance it with the traffic on the main road here. It's quite nicely done and it feels nice and safe. The embankment cycleway, also known as Cycleway 3, is fantastic, and as you can see, you've got plenty of space to ride here. Do make sure that you obey the traffic lights when pedestrians are trying to cross the road though. One bit of interest along here comes after this bridge here. If you look on the left, you'll see that there's a building site, and what's actually been constructed there is the new Thames Super Sewer to increase sewage capacity in London and hopefully stop so much sewage outfall. If you look through the construction netting there, you will see that they are actually building some new public space on top of the sewer, so the embankment's actually going to be wider when they're done. The cycleway will also be slightly changed, and I'll be looking at the changes that are made when those come live. I don't know exactly when that'll be, but I think the new public space should be opening sometime this year, so do hit subscribe on the channel if you're interested in seeing that. We're now coming up to the Houses of Parliament, and just be aware that this junction is always absolutely thronged with people riding bikes in both directions. It's always hugely busy, and I think it shows what happens when you build fantastic infrastructure like this in places that people want to get to. On our right is Westminster Tube Station in the basement of Portcullis House, and on our left is New Palace Yard, which is part of the Palace of Westminster. Dead ahead is Parliament Square, and I'd like to take this opportunity to say Parliament Square needs to be pedestrianised. Just look at all that wasted space in the middle of the road for very, very few cars at most times of day, and lots of people crammed onto the pavements. I think it would make so much sense to turn what is a really important place for not just tourists but also for British democracy into a much nicer public space. Anyway, thanks so much for riding along with me on that, guys. Do hit subscribe if you want to see more videos. Thanks so much again to everyone on the Patreon. There's a link in the description if you're interested in contributing to it too. Do let me know in the comments what you think of that. As you can see from the map, it's an incredibly direct route now. It used to be a bit wiggly, but it's become much better in the last few years, and hopefully you guys will benefit from it as well when you ride it. I'll see you in the comments. Speak again soon. Bye.